guys, welcome to another episode of the Planeswalkers Pub. I'm your host, Aaron. I'm joined today, as always, by RJ. How's it going?
Doing great. Looking forward to talking about the ban list, as well as talk about our special guest.
Yes, today we are joined by our friend Mike, but we all just basically call him Pope.
Hey, what's up, guys? How's it going today? I'm the Pope.
Yeah, yesterday I sent Eric downstairs to change a keg, and he's not returned yet.
He's fine.
Yeah, he's probably fine. Don't worry about it. Because we have Pope here to substitute in. So today we're going to be talking about the ban list and the cards that we would like to see put on the ban list, as well as cards we'd like to take off of the ban list. But before that, we want to talk about our friends over at tcgplayer.com. In the description below is our affiliate link that will take you over to TCG Player and let them know that we sent you. You're going to buy cards anyway, so why not help out the channel at the same time? I also want to mention that we have a Twitter and a brand new Discord server, both of which the links are down in the description box below.
You can talk to me, or Eric, or Aaron, or maybe even our good friend Pope here. We're all there.
I could be there. It'd be crazy.
Now that that's all done, let's talk about our signature card. Today's signature card is Shahrazad. It costs 2 white. It's a sorcery, and states, players must leave the game in progress as... We're going to read the Oracle text. Players play a Magic subgame, using their libraries as their decks. Each player who doesn't win the subgame loses half their life, rounded up.
Yeah, so thank God for Oracle text. Shout out to Scryfall, because looking at the actual text of it, these are old cards. It was not pleasant.
It's good that this is banned in literally everything.
Yeah, so we decided to actually choose Shahrazad as our signature card of the day, even though it's banned, because we're talking about the ban list itself.
Yeah, why not?
It might be a small spoiler, but I feel like we all can agree Shahrazad should stay on the ban list.
Oh yeah, because this could be recurred with anything that recurs in instant or sorcery, and you can make your 2-hour commander game last a week.
The thing is, starting a subgame, although it is fun and entertaining the first time, recurring it several times over with, Snapcaster Mage or a bunch of different things that bring it back from the graveyard could get annoying. Fun though, if you are into the sub game, you kind of just pick up your deck and just walk to a different table and just start playing that game, which is kind of interesting.
Let me just leave my whole good board state right there and let's go somewhere else.
Guys, I don't know what you're talking about. Listen, this card is dope. You get to play a sub game with no ante. That's no ante. And you can get away with using less than 40 cards. It says it right on there on the card. I don't understand why you needed the Oracle text.
Although I do know that if you are joining the sub game and you cannot draw up to 7 cards, you instantly lose, which kind of is bad.
Well, do you lose both games if you can't draw? Because you're still using your deck?
Oh yeah, so at that point.
Oh god, that's why this card is banned, because confusion.
Crazy card nonetheless. But that being said, let's actually switch over to our main topic, talking about other crazier cards. So on the 21st of October, Wizards is going to release the new banned and restricted Magic list. Now, at the time of recording, this is before the 21st, so we actually have no idea what they've banned or restricted. However, at the time of release, you guys are going to have the full list, which I will link in the description below. However, the bans and restrictions are typically for standard and legacy and modern and stuff like that. We, as Commander players, have our own individual Commander's Rules Committee, and our bans aren't really the same. That being said, we thought it would be fun to just create our own individual what should be banned, what should be unbanned list, just to hope that the Rules Committee hears us and might take into slight advisory. Let's start with the things we want to take off the list. Pope, what's one card you would wish to see off the ban list?
In preparation for this video, or recording, because you can't see my face. I'm very handsome, by the way. In preparation for this, I sort of prowled through the ban list and I thought about the cards that were on there and, the direct impact they would have in the game. The one that really stood out to me was Primeval Titan. Best value, it ramps you all your lands in the deck. But I think that, we have more powerful cards already on the ban list with cards like Sylvan Primordial. I think that there's a lot of land synergy that we already have in the game, especially in Commander. I don't think 2 to 6 lands makes much of a difference when we really factor it in. I think that it would be fine coming off the list at this point.
Now, for those who actually don't know what Primeval Titan or Prime Time actually does...
Primeval Titan costs 4 and 2 green. It's a giant creature. It's a 6/6 with trample, and it says whenever Primeval Titan enters the battlefield or attacks, you may search your library for up to 2 land cards, put them onto the battlefield tap, then shuffle your library. So I will actually say I disagree with that, because it's 2, it doesn't say basic land, it just says 2 lands. So I swing with this guy, or he enters the battlefield, I get Cabal Coffers Urborg just right then. So I immediately have that active. You could pull Dark Depths Thespian stage and just immediately have that combo off. And you'd just have a 20/20 flying indestructible creature on turn. If you're playing this in green, that combo can even be played in mono green. You can get that on turn 4.
One of the things that Primetime was originally banned is because people would just use Flash and Primeval Titan to just get out the lands very, very quickly on turn 2. I do kind of agree with RJ in the sense that, yes, getting specific lands is kind of detrimental. However, I think that not so much our meta, but as Commander as a whole has grown up to the point where we can kind of deal with just lands getting out. I mean, let's get real. They did just print Golos. And he can do the exact same thing as Primetime, and he can also be your commander.
But he costs 7 mana to do his ability, and this guy costs 6, but you can do it more than once without paying the mana more than once.
But he has to attack.
He has to attack, but Golos has to, 1, hit the field. He's an artifact, so you can destroy him with any artifact removal as well as creature removal. You have to have all 5 colors, plus 2 more to activate his ability. And yeah, Golos can be pretty broken, but I feel like he's less broken than Primeval, or at least he's easier to handle than Primeval Titan.
My main thing with that is the fact that because Golos is your commander, he's never officially gone. He's always the ability to kind of show up and stuff like that. With Primetime, you exile him, a simple path to exile, for instance, using on both creatures, Primetime's going away forever. Your commander, Golos isn't. He can always just come right back out and do the same thing. Golos is worse because he's 5 colors, because he has the blue in order to be able to flicker him. He's got the white for the protections, he's got the green in order to ramp himself out, and he's got the ability to have more than just green lands in your deck.
As far as RJ's defense for Primetime, I could definitely see that. Something explosive like grabbing your Cradle when you have a whole bunch of guys and just you're grabbing it nonchalantly and you have a land that untaps other lands, or you could grab the Urborg and Cabal Coffers is super powerful, but where I would sort of counter RJ is that people are going to do that anyway. We have black to tutor anything we want to the top of our deck. We have Sylvan Scrying that can be thrown on a Isochron Scepter. We have a whole bunch of options to tutor lands, so I think just adding a tutor to a body, especially one that's, strictly weaker than something like Sylvan Primordial, it's just more fair.
That is definitely true, that there are other things that can do it, but how many cards are you using to get those cards? You using the tutor to get you only get those cards into your hand or on top of your library. We're going to get into tutoring with me in a second, because you're probably not going to like what I have to say about it. With this guy, it's 2 lands immediately into play. Yes, they're tapped, but you just get them in. If you already have a Seedborn Muse, they're untapping next turn. And you can continuously get this by swinging with him. If you're running this in, say, a Selesnya deck, a green-white deck, you have Reconnaissance in there. Just swing and pull him out of combat. You don't have to worry about anything happening to him.
Well, needless to say, Primetime is on our thoughts, and we're kind of split-ish for the actual decisions on whether we should take him off or not. One thing I feel like we're definitely going to be more in favor of against is my pick, which is going to be taking off Black Lotus. Now, before everyone decides to just mute me and not listen and yell in the comments, let me actually explain why, at least my justification for it. So Black Lotus is a 0 mana artifact that you just sacrifice Black Lotus and you get 3 mana of any color to your mana pool of the same color. My justification of taking off Black Lotus, which doesn't seem like much for an actual ruling, but here's why. Yes, it is extremely powerful, and I don't deny how powerful it is. Dropping that on turn 0 or dropping that on turn 1 or something in that sense, that's basically going to give you a humongous lead over your opponent. However, the cheapest version of Black Lotus right now is $2,100. That's a lot, even for the most expensive Magic players, the ones that kind of foil out their entire decks and want the best of everything. That is seriously a lot. My thinking of this is not many Black Lotus have actually been printed, and more importantly, not many people actually own one. Let's say at the most, maybe 200, 300 people actually own a Black Lotus. Why are we banning this card if we're never going to see it in the game anyway, is my main principle behind it. It should be unbanned because not many people actually own it. People aren't going to be running it. And yes, there's a theory of, oh, well, you can run it in competitive EDH. That's understandable. But they're already running a bunch of other degenerate combos. Isochron Scepter, Dramatic Reversal. I have that in my own deck. It's a very degenerate combo that's very easy to put together. We have a lot of other Moxes that, or not a lot of other Moxes, but we have Mox Amber that was just recently printed. We have the new, or the other Chromox, which is also currently floating around. We have Lotus Petal, which is still just around. And you can easily recur Lotus Petal just as you can easily recur Black Lotus. My thing is, yes, turn 1, it's extremely dangerous, but getting it like turn 5, 6, the chances of you not having that mana to do anything anyway, the chance of it actually saving you probably isn't going to be as extreme.
So, the first thing I do want to say is that we've talked about this before the episode happened, so we got a little heated, so I'm going to try and keep it chill. Keep it chill for us now. But the idea that a card isn't available to everybody should not be a reasoning for it to be on or off the ban list, because people accept proxies in these games, or depending on your play group, people can accept proxies. So I could proxy a Black Lotus and run it. That's 3 free mana on turn 1. So you cast a 4 mana spell on turn 1. So the idea of the ban list is these cards are on the list because they've decided as the committee that these are cards that you shouldn't be playing. For all you know, you could just play, your group could just say, hey, let's not use the ban list, and this wouldn't matter. But the reason why the ban list exists is to basically give suggestions of like, hey, this is why this shouldn't be in play. And I think the reason why you shouldn't is because of 4 mana on turn 1. You could cast like Panharmonica on turn 1. Oh no, we're doomed. And that can be pretty ridiculous.
My rebuttal to that then would be, yes, on turn 1, this is the most powerful. But in response, so are any of the ley lines. You put out Leyline, like we put Leyline of the Void inside of our actual decks in order to mess around people's graveyards, stuff like that. The Leyline is really the most powerful in your opening hand. If you're casting it for 4 mana, even if it's on like turn 4, it's still kind of dampering on your strategy and things like that. My point is the fact of the chances of you actually getting this into your opening hand, or the values within the first 2 turns without tutoring for it, are still pretty low because this is within the 99 cards of your actual library.
The thing with the ley lines, though, is that an ability like get 3 mana, taps for 3 mana, they aren't going to put on a ley line because it's really, really powerful.
Let's actually jump over to Pope to weigh in on this.
I think my, sort of to touch on what RJ was saying, it's more about fast mana. One of the cards that we had thought up of was Grand Arbiter Augustin IV, like the go-to stacks commander. You know, if you turn 1 go land and Black Lotus, you have your Augustin out turn 1, and your opponents are all set back at least 1 full turn. And then to sort of riff off what Aaron said, when we're looking at getting it later in the game, you know, of course it's powerful on turn 1. Any free mana source is powerful on turn 1. Black Lotus, even later in the game, 5, 6, 7, 8 turns and into the game, it puts you so far ahead for absolutely 0 cost. Like, I could turn 4 with regular old, not just playing land go, I could turn 4 a Protean Hulk, sacrifice it to something, and win the game. So I think it's just the fast mana for me. We're sort of restricting how quickly and how efficiently people could play. With this, the argument would also be, well, why don't we take the Moxes off? And in a situation like that, if we take the Moxes off, then people are either going to proxy them or going to look to get them, and then everybody's playing 5 color decks, so that you can play all the Moxes and Black Lotus. You're effectively thinning out your deck. Black Lotus is super easy to tutor. You can play Tezzeret the Seeker and 0 him for Black Lotus. You can play Trinket Mage and get it for free. So you play Trinket Mage for free and get 3 mana. Like, it's insane. It's really powerful, and I definitely think that there is merit to the cost effectiveness with what Aaron is saying, but I still think that it's the fast mana, and it just puts you so far ahead, either too early or even later in the game.
That actually makes a lot of sense. And originally I was like, okay, let's take off Black Lotus, but I immediately said, let's leave the Moxes on. But I understand your justification. If we take off Black Lotus, then people are going to be like, well, why not the Moxes? So, okay, that makes sense. Let's actually jump over to RJ. What card would you like to take off of the ban list?
None of them! Haha, kidding. One thing that I just trolling through the ban list. My card is Gifts Ungiven. It's 3 and a blue, instant. It says search your library for up to 4 cards with different names and reveal them. Target opponent chooses 2 of those cards, put the chosen cards into your graveyard, and the rest into your hand. Then shuffle your library. So the more I read this, the more I can kind of see why it could be broken. But there's a lot of effects like that get you cards. You have to pick 4 specific cards, and your opponents choose which one you get to keep. If your opponents know what your combos are, if they say you pull Triskelion, Mikaeus, Walking Ballista, and I don't know a fourth one that would combo with any of those. You can choose to give them just Triskelion and Walking Ballista, because then they don't have the combo piece of Mikaeus and they have to ditch it.
I'm gonna jump in first. Although I definitely want to give it to Pope. I do want to jump in first here. So you cast this, and your choices to give to me are, with Crucible of Worlds on the field, you give me Strip Mine, Cabal Coffers, Urborg, and Wasteland. Like,
I just wanted to say though real quick is that there is a card that's unbanned that will do that.
That's my point. Is that this is another version of that, and the
of
problem,
Realms Uncharted. I believe.
Of Realms Uncharted. The point is, that's my problem with this, is the fact that it just says any 4 cards. You can make it, if you're tuning for 4 cards, there is no, oh, well, give me this and I won't get this. It's a straight up, you're getting all 4 of these cards, you just have to go through one more hoop in order to get them all. And stuff like this is dangerous. Even Realms Uncharted is dangerous, because we actually had a 1v1 game where you did exactly that. You had Crucible on the field, you're like, hey, Strip Mine, Urborg, Cabal Coffers, Thespian Stage. Like, there is no choice. It's an illusion of choice. I'm not really, as much as I would love a tutor, I'm not okay with that. Just because there is no choice.
It's going to sound kind of funny. When we get to stuff that should be on the ban list, we'll talk about tutors later. This actually goes against my personal opinion on tutors. And yeah, so it's kind of weird me mentioning that. But I feel like if other tutors are unbanned, that this one could be fair.
I'm thinking, for Gifts Ungiven, you're not going to just like jam that into any deck that has blue. You're going to put it into a deck with Graveyard Recursion. You're going to pull 4 cards to your opponents. Here's an example: Dark Depths, Vampire Hexmage, Grim Discovery, and Reclaim. So what do you give your opponent? If you give them the Grim Discovery and the Hexmage, they can use the Grim Discovery to get back the Dark Depths. Like, you're playing Gifts Ungiven for a reason, and you're going to win with it. Like, those are your choices. Like, if you play the card, you are grabbing a combo every single time. It's 4 mana. You know, if we play Black Lotus in our deck, you know, we can play that turn 1 and win the game.
Yeah.
So. Potentially. Because at that point, it doesn't matter what you choose, because no one's going to have any responses on turn 1.
Mm-hmm. One of the other cards I want to have unbanned, this is actually a 2-for. I'm choosing Chaos Orb as well as Falling Star. So let's go kind of in order. Chaos Orb, it's a 2-mana artifact. You pay 1, you literally flip the card from a height of 1 foot over the actual table itself, and then it has to make a full 100% 360-degree rotation before it hits the table. Once it hits the table, whatever it's currently touching is destroyed. Falling Star basically does the exact same thing, except whatever it's currently touching, that then becomes lightning bolted. So Falling Star only hits creatures, which is, well, you generally actually want to hit creatures for the most part because it does 3 damage to it. It's also a sorcery for 2 in a red. 2 things with this. People underestimate how high 1 foot off the table really actually is. People assume a lot, but actually getting out a physical ruler and checking it, it's a lot higher than you think. Number 2, you have to make a full rotation by stating on the card, there's no way of getting around it. It has to make a full 360-degree rotation to actually hit something. And then you have to actually hit what you're shooting at. It's like dropping a bomb from space. The chances of you actually hitting something are slim to none with no true accuracy. Falling Star, I can understand being off the ban list because its base is a glorified lightning bolt. It's a worse lightning bolt, actually, because it costs 3 mana for starters, it's a sorcery, and you actually have to go through a humongous hoop in order to actually hit something, and then you're only doing 3 damage to that something. I understand the fact of Chaos Orb. You want to kind of, it's a repeatable thing, it might not blow itself up, you know, you can always just destroy whatever you want, you're only doing it on your opponent's side. But here's my thing of this. This is a parlor trick. Why is it banned?
I think it's banned because it's a parlor trick. Because I shouldn't need to bring a ruler to play Magic the Gathering. There are so many things you could finagle with this card. Everyone's heard the story of, oh, some guy in a tournament, I don't even know if this is true, tore up a Chaos Orb and threw it into the air, and it just wiped the whole board, because technically all those little pieces did the 360. Could you say no tearing up the card? Sure, but that's not in the rules. What if it bounces? Do those bounces count? If it hits something and then somehow bounces into the air and hits another thing, will that count? We don't know. Magic the Gathering is a paper flat on the table game. If you have to go 3D with things, it just adds a lot of confusion.
A couple of things to say. Number 1, that actually is a true story. He did legitimately tear up his Chaos Orb and then sprinkle it along the table. The Chaos Orb, currently the cheapest version you can possibly get is $100. So if you want to go through and tear up your $100 card just for the sake of blowing up your opponent's board, more power to you. You can never do that again, so congratulations, I hope you won that game. But my also statement is the fact of bouncing doesn't technically count as flipping. It specifically says flip.
If it flips completely after it bounces, then yeah, it flips. Because
Bounce
also,
a card?
if it bounces again, it already did its flip in the air. Doesn't that mean it still counts? That's not a separate flip, because then you'd have to cast it again. I'm saying if it flips in the air already and it hits the table, hits something and then hits something else or slides around, it's just...
Pope, would you like to weigh in on this?
First, I just want to say that if you're willing to take your Chaos Orb and rip it up into little bitty pieces to throw it at 3 opponents, that is the biggest Magic the Gathering flex ever.
Agreed.
But also it adds goofy variants, sort of like what RJ said. It would kind of suck to have to go to Staples just so you could play your card and get a ruler. I think the reason that it's banned is because of the variants and because of the debate. You know, you could say, well, you didn't drop it from exactly 1 foot. You dropped it from 10 inches. And, you know, it becomes a debate, and then everybody's got to stop playing, and then, you know, there's just too much going on with 1 or 2 goofy cards that just having them removed makes the play experience so much better.
My last card is going to get shot down. I already know. I don't think Biorhythm needs to be banned. Biorhythm states it costs 6 and 2 green. It's a sorcery. It has a wicked looking dude staring into my soul on it. Oh, he's got tigers in his eyes, too. Shoot.
The literal eye of the tiger.
Each player's life total becomes the number of creatures he or she controls. Yeah, I mean, maybe this is coming from the guy who plays too many creature decks, but so what my life total turned to 6 immediately? Or just, it could kill people, too. Like all those people who refuse to play creatures. Maybe it's just hate towards them coming from my soul.
Yeah, so my argument against... I almost said Shaman of the Forgotten Ways, which is biorhythm on a stick. With my big argument against biorhythm is the same argument that people have against Magister Sphinx and Soren Markov, right? It could take you from a commanding position and just knock you out. If you're building a deck where, you know, life gain is your thing, or, you know, you have your life is dependent upon something, but you're playing minimal creatures, then Biorhythm just kind of shuts you out of the game, and that's not really fun. Now, we have Shaman of the Forgotten Ways, and it is functionally a more difficult to cast biorhythm. And I think that Shaman of the Forgotten Ways is fine. It can't be cast right away. It does generate mana, and then you have to have Formidable for it to work. So I would just want to say, like, it wrecks on some strategies. It does take fun sort of out of the experience, and the salt waves are real.
To shoot myself in the foot with this, that life change counts as loss of life. So you have anything that doubles loss of life at the end of the turn. I forget the name of it, but there's a card. Aaron will look it up.
Yeah, it's on screen right now.
You'll just die. Everyone just dies at the end of the turn.
Jumping basically onto the hate bandwagon, yes, as a person that actually has slowly started playing more controlling and less creature-heavy decks, this will just straight kill me. Well, think about it this way. If you're in green and white or something like that, since you float a bunch of mana, then you board wipe, and then you play 1 single creature. You then cast this. Everyone just dies. Or more importantly, it doesn't exile itself. If it said, hey, cast this and exile itself, that'd be one thing. But this can easily be brought back several times over and then just constantly maintaining everyone else's life totals. Plus, once again, you're in green. You're going to have the most creatures out of everyone typically anyway. So although it seems like we all basically shot down the cards we should take off of the list, Primetime, I believe, is actually the only one that may have survived that whole ordeal.
Yeah, honestly, because I like lands.
Let's actually talk about the cards that we want to add onto the list. Let me actually start by just saying one of my controversial ones, because of course there's going to be controversy. I want Skull Clamp to be banned. Now, here's the thing, which is going to be really weird for me to say, is because I technically own 2 token-based decks, but Skull Clamp, I feel like, is far too easy. For starters, it's one of Magic's original mistakes. It was never meant to be a +1/-1. It's always meant to be a +1/+1. Someone screwed up. Drawing 2 cards from one thing dying is really powerful, especially when you have a token deck. And not even that, they recently printed Teysa Karlov. Teysa Karlov states when something dies, if it recalls a trigger of a permanent, you get additional trigger. With Skull Clamp and Teysa Karlov, you're now drawing 4 cards when something dies. You put this on top of Solemn Simulacrum, you're drawing 6 cards. That's huge. Stupidly huge.
That's only in one deck, though.
It is only in one deck. Let's take Imara or whatever, who actually creates a bunch of tokens. Let's take Prosh, who also creates a bunch of tokens. Krenko, either of them. They always create a bunch of 1/1 tokens. This is, everyone always says the clamp, because it's just the token killer. it just kills all tokens and you're drawing a stupid amount of cards. That shouldn't be a possible thing, which is why I think it actually should be banned.
I can definitely see all the sort of the negatives that Aaron has brought out. It's definitely a super powerful draw engine. I guess I would be against his decision because it does add an additional draw mechanic to colors that aren't typically that good at filling their hand. Mono red decks, mono white decks, in some cases mono green decks until you can ramp out into bigger spells like Rishkar's Expertise. It does let you sacrifice smaller things to generate hand size to recover. I think the big thing from Skull Clamp is recovery. You can dump your hand really quickly in some decks and then you're behind. You fall to a Wrath, and being able to generate a token, to draw 2 cards, to pull yourself back into the game, or to find an answer to somebody who is about to win. It just seems a little more valuable than it does abusable.
I'm pretty torn, to be honest with you. I love Skull Clamp. I think it's a great card and it does a lot, but it also, you're right, it's pretty powerful. Poke's definitely here with you can bounce back if you get screwed over, but if you're drawing like 6 cards, like you've seen me with Saheeli, I dug with a Skull Clamp. I had 5 Thopters. I had Thopter Assembly the previous turn. So I just paid 5 mana, drew 10 cards, and I still had mana left over to then cast a big spell. So I can see why you would want to ban it. I would say maybe not really, because there's other cards that also draw you lots of cards, and this one you do have to invest a little bit of mana into it. I don't know.
True, there are a lot, especially in blue or whatever. There is Dig Through Time, for instance. There is the new one with the fish one, Draw into Dreams, where it actually draw or digs you a bunch of cards deep and things like that sense. However, this is something that's both extremely repeatable. The problem is that we don't, in Commander, because we're a singleton format, we don't have a limited list where it's like, oh, you can only have one in your deck. We already have one in our deck. It's a banned or it's a nothing type deal. I believe personally that Skull Clamp is abused more than it is to use for, I'm just going to try to get back to the game. Despite how much wraths and murder we have in our format, it is actually surprising to kill creatures when you need to kill creatures, realistically. Skull Clamp gives you an on-site, this is going to die because I'm going to do something crazy. Plus, how many times have people actually, I want to clamp my Solemn Simulacrum, I'm going to swing at you for 3. I don't block because I don't want you drawing that many cards.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see that as such a huge issue, is being able to deal some damage. Like, it makes it less likely that you're going to kill something. It gives you a benefit if someone does something bad to you. Outside of crazy token decks, Skull Clamp isn't really seen that much, but I don't see it as completely winning you a game.
But if you have that and then a Reliquary Tower in the field, a card advantage, you're just going to bury your opponents in it. That's my main problem with actually saying that it should be banned. The next card that potentially should be banned, Pope, what you got?
My big one, and I've been saying this for years, and we've discussed it heavily in the community that we all play in, is Deadeye Navigator. Deadeye Navigator has such a tight window to interact with it, right? Soulbond doesn't go on the stack, so you need to either kill what you think is going to be the target for Deadeye Navigator, or you need to counter the Deadeye Navigator.
So what does it do?
Deadeye Navigator is a 4-mana 5/5 with Soulbond. As it enters the battlefield, you may pair it with an unpaired creature, and then they'll both get an ability as long as they're paired. So Deadeye Navigator says as long as Deadeye Navigator is paired with another creature, each of those creatures has 1 in a blue, exile this creature, then return it to the battlefield under your control. So pairing it just in blue, you can pair it with Draining Will, and you always have access to a 2-mana counterspell. It can pair with Palancron, Cloud of Fairies, Peregrine Drake, and you have infinite mana. Pair it with Grave Titan for infinite tokens. Pair it with Muldrifter to draw 2 cards as much as you want. Pair it with Shriekmaw to kill something. Pair it with Mystical Snake, automatic counterspell.
Pair it with Solemn Simulacrum and just get all the lands out of your deck.
Exactly. There's entirely too much you can do with it that if somebody puts one on the stack, if you don't deal with it, you just lose. And it's salty. It just makes me feel bad.
I have a really hard time trying to disagree with you with this, because you make it sound really ridiculous, but it costs 6 mana to get out, and unless you're in a good rampy color, it might be a bit difficult to get out. You're throwing 6 mana into the ether, and like you said, this guy's gonna get countered probably because he's a big combo piece. So you just threw 6 mana into nothing.
I mean, I do agree with RJ a little bit. The defense I know the comments is going to mention is you're in blue, so yes, you're throwing out 6 mana, mana to the ether, but you're also running the color that has the most counter spells out of everyone else, so there's a good chance it's going to resolve. It is a very, 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 very powerful card. I don't know if it's... The problem is with this is the fact that it is extremely a strong card, but it also kind of just not really wins games, but...
I bet you there's a combo out there that uses this.
It's definitely a combo. It's definitely a combo piece. I feel like maybe... I don't know if it's ruining enough games is my problem. That's like for instance, like Walking Ballista, people can agree that Walking Ballista resolves, people die. People can agree on that. That's 100%. People just straight die. With this, you have to have you're getting value more than anything else. Like it's not a straight kill people. Is my point. Don't get me wrong.
Murder spread cap. You can't really go infinite.
Don't get me wrong. 2 mana countering everything forever. That sounds annoying as hell. Like, getting infinite mana with Palicron, that sounds annoying. But it's a generator. It's not really a finisher, is my point of why it doesn't necessarily need to be banned. But it definitely needs to be looked at. And maybe a card should be created or something in that sense, which kind of messes with it a little bit. Or maybe they change how I'm not entirely sure if it's full-blown ban-worthy. I feel like that's kind of where RJ is also in the realm of, like, I don't really know, because...
Yeah, because it's a high-risk, high-reward card. You have to pay the 6 mana, and you have to have the 2 extra mana to really do something with it.
And then you have to also have the thing either on the board already, or
you have to cast another creature to slow around it.
Basically. Like, it's kind of like... In the grand scheme of things, I would personally put Omniscience over this. Because Omniscience blatantly says, you're legally moved to cheat step, I no longer need to worry about mana. Versus this, I need to set up a bunch of cool things to get value to then go find a way of killing you. RJ, what would you like to see banned?
Y'all aren't going to like this. It's not a single card. Tutors.
I'm going to interject for a second and say you need to make a very good statement right now, because all of everyone that plays black is arguing with you at this very second.
Or clarify what you mean by tutors. Like, do you mean...
I don't mean Evolving Wilds. Actually, maybe I would even say maybe Evolving Wilds.
So, like, you think fetch lands and rampant growth and things like that, or
just straight mono black, like Demonic Tutor, Diabolic.
I definitely don't like... If I had a sliding scale, it would go any mono black tutor, because those are just for anything. Then it would be the cards that tutor for creatures and specific spells. Mm-hmm. Then
like Eladamri's
Call, or Mystical Tutor or Enlightened Tutor, those. Then below that would be...
Ewaros.
No, below that would be... Actually, no, Sunforger's above that. But below that would be, like, Evolving Wilds and stuff. I think land tutors, where you're just ramping if it's a basic land tutor, that's fine. I don't really like fetch lands that much. They aren't as powerful as the mono black or the just blizz. I'm going to call them tier 1 and tier 2 tutors. Tier 1 being the mono black tutors, tier 2 being enlightened, mystical, things along those lines. Because the idea of Commander is this is a 100-card deck. You're supposed to get cards pseudo-randomly, and you're supposed to play the deck around whatever you draw. Mm-hmm. All a tutor does is says, okay, we're going to pull for this. And that's it. It makes the decks too consistent.
Okay.
Because if the only thing in your deck is I'm going to win with Mikaeus and Triskelion, and you're just going to do every single way you can to get those two things out, then that's all your deck is 2 cards. Okay. It's Triskelion and Mikaeus. Doesn't matter who your commander really is at that point. Doesn't matter anything else. Just that you can get out those 2 cards. And I think tutors enable that a little too much.
All right, listen, Brotato Salad. All right, so the tutor thing, I definitely understand some of the things you're saying, right? It is a 100-card format. There should be some type of variance. That would cut out a lot of the cards in the format. And, I am preferably a combo player. And I definitely have a deck. I play Anafenza the Foremost. I do not cast Anafenza ever. I just want her for the junk colors. I could probably play better Commander. Ikra Shadiki and Timna come to mind. But my deck is a birthing pod deck. I go for a birthing pod and I tutor out my creatures and I follow a chain and that's how I win. Like, it's a combo format. And I think removing something like tutors, like, specific card tutors, or card like my favorite tutor in the format right now is Shared Summons. It's 5 mana, 3 and 2 green, and you search your deck for creatures with 2 different names. It puts, combo pieces into my hand and how I win. My decks, a handful of my decks, they can't combo off, or they combo off. They can't, attack for the win. That's just something that they can't do. And that would, cutting tutors out would completely ruin 3 or 4 of my decks. That wouldn't be fun. I think it's the fun factor on there.
Pretty much, I do agree with Pope, because I also am kind of a combo player. My Alayla deck, there is basically just like a several thing. Just go and grab, Mystic Forge, a Founder Inspector, and since it's Divine Top, draw your entire deck, make infinite mana because I can, drop Walking Ballista, kill everyone. Tutors definitely help. I will meet you halfway, RJ, by saying maybe there should be a limiting on how many tutors you can legally have in your deck. Like, for instance...
That would be really hard to...
It would definitely be really, really hard to justify. It would be really, really hard to kind of just say, hey, now you can only have 2. Because I do agree that there are a lot of tutors. I'm going to pair myself with you a little bit and talk about my next cards that I want to see banned, because it also will help out this argument a little bit too. The next set I actually want to see banned are off-colored fetch lands. And my justification for that is the fact that everyone, if you can afford a fetch land or something like that, since whatever, Jeff, I'm bringing you up because I know you have them. He puts off-color fetches in basically all of his 2-color decks, and that's because you just can. Like, I shouldn't have to see a Boros fetch land inside of a Izzet deck.
No Arid Mesa in an Izzet deck.
Exactly. That's just not... I forgot you were a land person. That's something I'm not okay with. Because, to some extent, you're cheating. In my personal opinion.
I can agree with that. Because, like, the flipped creatures, the ones that are a different color on the back than they are on the front, those count as creatures of those colors, so you can't run them in your... You can't run Avacyn in the Purifier in your mono-white deck. You can only do it in a Boros deck because she's white and red. I think the same should be with fetch lands. I think if you're running black and green, you can't run a black and blue fetch land or a black and white fetch land, because on that card are 2 different colors.
And the fact of people say, okay, well, there's no actual pips or anything like that. I understand that, but my justification is there is no way of saying I failed because you legally, when you crack that, you are failing to find 1/2 of that card. It's not fair. And I understand it's like, oh, you can't use not fair as your justification. It's not fair in the sense of they printed the fetch lands to go get 2 specific colors. You're supposed to only really go and get those specific things. I understand, like, oh, I can get the dual lands or something like that, since, like, Godless Shrine. That's fine. But the problem is, you shouldn't be able to ramp that consistently. Going back to the fact of banning all tutors...
I'd like to revise my statement real quick. The mono-black tutors, the things that say any card. Because being able to tutor... There are cards that specifically say tutor for an artifact or an enchantment or an equipment. But the mono-black ones are just search for a card. I think that's a bit that's too handy.
I can understand that, but the cool thing about that is that, and we talked about this last episode, Black has 2 things it does really, really well. It can tutor for basically anything, and it can kill single target things. My thing is, if we take away the tutor portion of Black, that's taking away literally their only identity that they have. That's the reason why most people just play Black in general, because they can tutor for stuff. Taking that away is like taking away Blue's counter spells. Like, that's all they have.
I think they should do that too.
Well, that's
cut that out. I don't like that.
That's an uphill battle. I'm not going to jump in with you that.
So I've sort of been listening to this back and forth and sitting here in a little bit of disbelief, and I just had a question I wanted to pose to Aaron, and I was like, Aaron, where do you get the pixie sticks that you eat? Because that land conversation just went right over my head. Are you telling me that if I play a Golgari deck, the only fetch I should be allowed to play is Verdant Catacombs?
Yes.
Yes.
You also have Fabled Passage. You also have Verdant something.
Well, wait, hold on. Fabled Passage doesn't have a color on it.
It goes for any color.
But my point is the fact
it's a gold bordered card. It goes
to represent that. It should be the fetch that tutors for black or green. You also have Evolving Wild. You also have Terramorphic Expanse. There's 3-year fetches right there. Any more, I'm going to go tutor for basically any land. And there's also the
panoramas. I think those should, again, only be in decks with those colors.
Yes.
You shouldn't be running a Boros deck with a Naya panorama.
Exactly. That's my principle.
But then again, why would you?
That's my principle as well, where the panoramas are also kind of just out of control. They did recently print the new, basically better version of Evolving Wilds, where you pay a life, you go get a land. You have that as well to run. My point is the fact of, with fetches, because expect you can even agree to this, where it's like, you're in a Gagalar deck or whatever. You can basically run what 6 out of the 10 fetches. That's not all right.
They should print 3 color fetches.
You shouldn't have your land base to the. It also makes it this way. People kind of get a little lazy with their land bases because they're like, okay, well, I'm going to keep this hand because I've got 2 fetches and a swamp. I can keep this hand. But yeah, I guess that's kind of our justification for actual tutors. Pope, what else would you like to see banned?
I think the only thing I'd really like to see banned is Mana Crypt. I'm really not a big fan of mana for free. We had discussed this earlier with Black Lotus. Sure, Mana Crypt comes in, like, when it's tapped, you flip a coin. If you lose the flip, you take 3 damage, but 3 damage is literally nothing in a format where your life starts at 40. I can definitely justify the power. I think the card is great, but I think that it's just, with my stance of fast mana and not having to pay for your fast mana, it just offers too much with not enough drawback.
I don't know. It's 2 mana for free. Yeah, it does deal with a little bit of damage whenever you tap it. But is 2 colorless mana going to end the game? The reason why I don't like Black Lotus is because it gives you colored mana. So it enables casting your commander. Unless you're playing a colorless commander, you're really not going to get them out on turn 1 if they cost like 5 mana or 4 mana. Technically, yes, you can get a 3-color commander if you're playing monocolor, but is that going to win you the game that quickly, that 2 extra mana?
My first experience with Mana Crypt, just seeing it as a card, because I was sort of ignorant to a lot of cards until I started playing more frequently. I was at PAX Unplugged, and I sat down with a couple of guys, and one guy was just like, oh, well, how's everybody doing? My deck's pretty good. And we were like, all right, we should all be fine. Let's play whatever. The guy's playing Azusa Lost But Seeking. He goes land, Mana Crypt, into Azusa, into Gaia's Cradle, into another forest. And it was just like, okay, I guess we get to play. And everybody else's turns were, land Sol Ring or land Llanowar Elf. Like, it felt really bad to sit across from. But again, shout out to the CEDH community. I really enjoy that format. I like spectating it. I think it's awesome. I think the power is great. But just for me, toning back the fast mana for free is just what I would like to see.
But I guess my proper rebuttal then for this would be, what's the justification then of banning this but not Sol Ring? Which says technically Sol Ring, it's like, oh, well, it's only 1 mana, whatever. 1 mana is technically paying for it. But there are plenty of things that can reduce the mana cost of colorless things by 1. We can mention Ugin, we can mention Foundering Spectre. Like, turn 1 Sol Ring, people can say is just as, if not more scary than actual Mana Crypt, because, yes, Mana Crypt burns you regardless of how you use it. It's always going to burn. There's always a chance of burning you 50-50 shot. Sol Ring never does. And it's basically the same thing once it's on the field. So that's what I'm saying. People are fighting, oh, well, we should get Sol Ring banned. But I don't see the justification of banning Mana Crypt because it does have the inherent detonation switch of you're getting lightning bolted, maybe. I've seen, bringing up our friends over at the command zone, we've seen, like, Jimmy and Josh or whatever during their actual gameplay, Jimmy will get burned like 4 or 5 times in a row versus some games he just won't. It's one of those things that Sol Ring and Mana Crypt in my eyes are kind of the same. 1 mana realistically isn't that much difference.
Well, technically Mana Crypt will kill you in 20 turns.
Yes, if you are really crappy at rolling the die or flipping the coin, then yes. But that's my point of, like, I don't really think that it deserves to be banned just because of that. If it gave you 3 mana, then yeah, I can definitely see, yes, that's kind of like, I guess, kind of like my next card, which I think is going to be banned, which I know is going to be controversial. It's been in the fight for literally as long as we had the rules committee. Vidalcan Orrery. So Vidalcan Orrery is a 4 mana artifact that states you may cast cards at instant speed. Flash is a scary thing for anyone to have, let alone everyone. Now, the reason why I bring up Vidalcan Orrery now specifically is because they just recently reprinted Leyline of Anticipation, which states that you now have Flash. 2 things that are different with this. Number 1, Leyline is a blue card. 2 and 2 blue specifically. If it's in your opening hand, it's free. That's awesome. If not, you gotta pay 4 mana for it, similar to Vidaka Nori. However, Vidaka Nori can go into literally any single deck. There's a lot of decks, in my opinion, that shouldn't have flash that now do. Mono green Stompy, for instance, is kind of something you really don't want to have flash. Mono red has a bunch of crazy sorceries that they can pop out just to deal a bunch of damage. Fireball at the end of someone's turn. It's huge. Like, flash is just, it takes away, we've mentioned throughout this entire episode of just the fun factor of things. What is truly fun about someone just saying land go? And then you just waiting there anticipating what they're going to do. It's always a stressful thing where you're sitting across from a blue player, you're like, okay, I cast this, does it resolve? I cast this, does it resolve? There's always that. When Vidaka and Ori's on the field, I now have to cast something and then wait a couple of seconds and be like, are they going to respond to this? Are they not? They can just be messing with me. They might not have anything in their hand. It's just a kind of an annoyance. It takes the fun a lot out of it because you now change the way the game is financially played by moving to, I can play my turn whenever.
Did you say financially played?
Yes.
It's creative accounting.
Okay.
Thoughts on Vidaka and Ori, RJ?
I don't see it as something that will win you the game. It's something that lets you do stuff at instant speed. You can recover faster. You can board wipe at instant speed. I get that, but I don't believe having flash on its own is going to win you the game. You need to have other stuff in there to use the flash. I've had Vidaka and Ori in a couple of my decks, and I took it out because it really just didn't do enough for my strategy.
Are we just banning cards because they're going to win you the game? Because in that justification, Black Lotus can come off because it doesn't win you the game.
It puts you in a place where you will win the game.
Vidaka Nori means that you always have priority to respond to the last possible thing. Why am I putting out my creatures now if someone's just going to board wipe later on? The thing is with playing at sorcery speed is you're always taking a chance whenever you're doing something. You play your commander. There's a full rotation before you can really attack with your commander or use your commander or something like that. So you don't know what's going to happen to it. Versus if I play my commander now, it goes to Pope's turn, nothing happens. It goes to RJ's turn, hey, I'm going to go ahead and path their commander because I just drew Path of Exile. And it's a really scary card. Versus waiting until, okay, at the end of someone else's turn, like, you know, and then next turn or whatever, Eric puts out something scary. Versus having Vidaka and Ori, it'll go Pope, you draw your path. Eric puts out something scary. Hey, I'm going to path that's free is scary. In response to that, I'm going to flash at my commander. It changes the way the game is played. That's my justification of it.
I don't know. I can kind of see both angles. I think for me, it slows down the pace of the game, and it's already a multiplayer format, and that just kind of makes it boring. Like, I cast this thing. Do you have a response? I cast this thing. Do you have a response? It's sort of the same situation as
a counter war.
Mono
blue player. Yeah.
As a counter war or like Ristic Study. Are you gonna pay 1 for that? Are you gonna pay 1 for that? Are you gonna counter my spell? Are you gonna play Siege Rhino? Are you gonna put that in play? Like, okay, whatever needs to happen. But I think, like, for me, I think it's fine. Like RJ said, not too many decks are going to actively seek out the need to play it. And the decks that do want it are definitely going to make room in the deck for it. So I don't think it's getting jammed in everything. I don't think it's going in, a mono black people sitting in chairs list or something like that. Like,
it should. What do you mean?
I mean, that's
it's a chair.
That's my favorite tribal deck. I have no idea. Like a big circle in the sky, something like that.
My thing is, if someone wants flash, they can find other ways of doing it. This just makes it way too easy for them to just have access to it. There is the land that gives you flash, which is in Simic colors. Like I mentioned before,
Alchemist Refuge.
Yeah, there is the blue ley line that gives you flash in that sense. There's an artifact mirror that says all your artifacts have flash. There's multiple different ways of actually getting flash in the decks that want it. This just basically says, hey, any deck that wants this, even if you don't want it, just to put it out. Even still, even if you have no use for it at all in your deck, just to put it out there, it makes other people think, well, what are they gonna do?
Okay, blue player. Only blue gets to have flash. That's what you're saying.
No, I'm saying which is the.
You're saying, oh, we have all this stuff that's in blue that gives you this. So why do we need something in all colors? It's okay, blue player. Have the flash for yourself. I think the idea that giving flash to all colors isn't going to break the game. My last card is Silence. Costs 1 white. It's an instant. And it says your opponents can't cast spells this turn. This card just says you win. That's what it says. Your opponents can't do anything. No one can do anything. You win. Because if you're not going to cast this for no reason. You're either going to cast this so you can win, or you're going to cast it so your opponent can't win. That's when you're going to use it, and shutting out people from doing anything is, it's not really a fun thing. Yes, you can activate abilities, but again, let's just keep you from doing anything for this turn.
I'm actually going to repeat what you just said as my own defense. You're going to cast this to make sure that your opponent can't do anything. If your opponent is about to win, or they have win on board or something, and that's if they need to untap step, untap, hey, on your upkeep, you're silenced. This way, I can now find a way of killing you. Yes, I agree that silence is a pain in the behind because it shuts out your opponents, but there is also Grand Abolisher, which does the exact same thing, and he's a creature who sticks around.
That's only on your turn, though.
It is only on your turn, which is true, but when are you winning typically? On your turn.
Well, yes, that's when you're winning, but also, you can't keep your opponents from stopping. You can't keep your opponents from winning, is the idea with this versus Grand Abolisher. You can cast this on your opponent's turn and keep them from winning as well. I feel like it's too cheaply costed, it's an instant speed. I feel like maybe if it was a sorcery it'd be better, or maybe if it costs 3 mana even, it'd be a bit better, where you have to hold up a little bit more mana to stop your opponent. Because just having 1 white mana to say, nope, you're not doing anything, is a bit too cheap.
Then let me jump my counter up a tiny bit by adding, let's say, 3 more mana and putting it into blue, time stop. It literally just says end the turn. That I feel like is a lot more dangerous than this, because that you don't get a draw, you do get an untap, I think.
It costs 5 mana.
It does cost 5 mana, but if you're in mono blue, anyway, you typically have it. Justin used it on me, and I know that means with this, you just can't cast spells. You can still activate abilities, you can still attack, you can still run, you can still sacrifice things to go to your graveyard. You can still have a turn. Time stop basically says, hey, skip. Uno, skip. That's basically what it does.
I can see that, but I still feel like it's just way too efficiently costed for that.
I definitely agree that it is way efficiently costed, but I think your defense that casting it on somebody else's turn so that they can't do something is actually more of a benefit. Obviously hold it up, cast it on your upkeep so that you are sort of forcing your opponents to interact with you before you win. But having something like that to hold on your opponent's upkeep and, shutting them down when they could win, right when they have that tooth and nail mana, or right when they're gonna, cast that birthing pod, or cast that big tasty creature, I could definitely see why it's frustrating. It's definitely annoying to be on the receiving end of a silence, but it definitely feels so great to cast a silence and then win the game. So, I don't know, I'm a little conflicted between both interactions.
We gotta remember, a non-combo player here, so seeing...
Not even on a combo or something like that, since, it is definitely, like Pope said, it's definitely annoying to have it to be the one silenced. But upside, you are winning the game after doing this. This is like the best counterspell it never was, because you're avoiding all other counterspells. But there are still, if someone has Grave Pack on the field or whatever, you need a creature in order to do your combo. You're like, okay, I cast Silence. All right, cool. No one else can do anything. I'm gonna cast Walking Ballista in response to sack this creature. You don't just win after this. You need to still make sure to put double layers. This is the last straw type effect. That being said, now it's time to jump over to our favorite episode. Is going to be Last Call! Last Call!
Last Call!
Last Call.
Alright, so final thoughts and the question to the people that are actually listening is, what do we miss? What cards do you actually want to see banned or unbanned, actually? Let us know down in the actual comments themselves. We also want to thank our friends over at TCGplayer.com. Make sure to actually hit that affiliate link. This way you can help out the channel at the same time, as well as checking out our Discord server. We just want to get a cool community started. This way we can kind of talk about the episodes and things like that.
Aaron, RJ, thanks for letting me sub in on the show for Eric. I'm sorry that he had a lot of difficulty changing that keg downstairs.
He's still there, man.
We'll go poke him and make
him.
Sure if he's still down there or not.
But for the longest time, I've been working with these guys, being a channel advisor, helping them with what content they're going to put out, and I'm really fond of this channel. I think the guys are going to do great. So do me a favor, go down to the doobly-doo, click subscribe, and ring the bell so you can see every episode of the Planeswalkers Pub.
Yep. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you very much. Hasta luego.